Hi, Gonzalo. Thank you for joining. Sorry, Gonzalo, I have to make you a co-host, and Veronica, you as well. So you both should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hello, thank you.
I'm so sorry, Gonzalo. Thank you. I was doing something else and totally exited the screen and forgot about it. Thank you for the reminder. Hi, Veronica.
Hi, thank you.
Of course. You ready for tonight?
Always.
I know you are. That I never doubt. I had, of course, started the meeting. I'll turn on my video so you're not stirring yourself. I started the meeting and a little early, 5:30, and then 5:40 rolled around, 5:42, and I was wondering why nobody had joined. I had started the wrong meeting.
It's so good that you started early then.
I know. It dawned on me like, oh, we're streaming. Nobody's here.
Jessica, I do feel like I've had a day like that today too. So
I don't feel as bad. Thank you. Thank you.
Jessica, could I get the password of the Spanish line, the Zoom Spanish?
Sure. Let me see if I can
Thank you.
for you. It's interesting. So yeah, 1017.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Rudy, are you there? This is Lisa.
Yeah.
I got a message from Hyla that she's going to be late.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that.
She asked me to pass that on to you.
I appreciate it. It's good to see everyone.
How's the weather in Redwood City?
Muggy,
Muggy?
kind of muggy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. How is it where you are?
88, 86.
Rudy, do we get to kick her off? Come on, Rudy. Do we make a motion?
We could. We could do it. We could even do it before we open the meeting officially. So
I think we should make a motion. You all should just come join me.
I totally support that. But Veronica, what do you say?
We need legal counsel on this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
are
Were you
you?
guys talking? I didn't hear you.
What?
Where are you?
Earmuffs.
Danny, where are you?
I'm in Mexico. I'm in San Jose del Cabo.
Oh, I'll be there in February. So I gotta wait.
I love it here.
I'm with you on that. We should just move all our meetings out there since they're virtual anyways.
My big excitement is the Halloween candy I just stole from my child. You have Mexico. I have a Kit Kat.
There you go.
But you know what? That Kit Kat is going to come in handy.
You got 3 minutes.
My apologies if the waves are too distracting, you know, the sound.
You're so evil, Danny. You're so evil. You know, the rest of us have to, work.
Esther's got a
Turn it
Kit
up.
Kat. I've got a Premier protein drink. It's really sad right now.
I have Red Bull and I have a Cliff Bar and a Kind Bar just in case I need it. I don't know how long this is gonna go. I hope not too long.
I know, we're all stacked.
We should save the really long meeting for the last one. Got to make it special.
Someday maybe we can meet each other.
I know. I'm happy to host when this is over and Veronica says yes. Cocktails, everybody.
Yeah, after November 17th, if I'm not mistaken, we're done. So, pick a day. Oh, you know what? Danny, you got to bring the tequila because you're the source right now. You're at the source. Oh, wonderful. We're having Mayor Howard join us. Wonderful.
Unfortunately, I'm more of a Scotch guy, so I'll have to let you know when I'm in Scotland the next time.
Bring it on. All right, one more minute and we will get started. I think most of us are here. Do we have Commissioner Brown? Veronica, how bad is it? We just delay 1 or 2 minutes to get started.
That's fine. You have the authority to do that.
I thank you. I appreciate that. I will give 2 more minutes so that hopefully our vice chair and Dr. Pena and Brown will join us. So we'll all start off together.
Is Alex on the call with us? I don't see him.
Unless there's a phone number, unless they called in via phone.
Oh, okay. I think I see his photo.
I think he just joined.
Okay. Oh, I just want to make sure that I have the updated presentation in my inbox. Oh, yes, I think I see it. Okay, great.
Hey, Alex, good to see you. So I don't know
Good
if you heard me,
evening.
but we're going to start like 2 minutes later just to give folks time to hop on. I know people are
No
connecting.
problem. Sounds good. And Sophia, you have the updated presentation, correct?
Yes, yep.
All right, great.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Rudy Espinoza, and I'm chair of the Advisory Districting Committee for Redwood City. I want to say good evening to everyone. Excited to be here. A little bittersweet for me since it is our second to last meeting, but happy to see all these wonderful faces tonight. I also want to recognize that we have our Redwood City Mayor with us, Diane Howard. So thank you for hopping on. I also want to recognize our members, Brown, Buckmaster, Chaudhry, Covey, Gardner, Gasparini, Hicks, Tumansky, Pena, and Selk, and Vice Chair Lacefield, who will be joining us shortly. And myself, as I mentioned, Committee Chair Espinoza Murray. I also want to welcome city staff and staff from our city's redistricting consultant, redistricting partners. They're also participating via conference. I'm going to switch over in Spanish and give some instructions. Estamos ofreciendo traducción en español para todas las reuniones de este comité a través de una línea de conferencia. Si quieren escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor marquen el 669-900-6833. De nuevo, si quieren participar y escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor marquen el 669-900-6833 y van a ingresar el número de identificación de la reunión 346-830-8566 y la clave es 1017. De nuevo, el número es 669-900-6833. El número de identificación de la reunión es 346-830-8566 y la clave es 1017. Las instrucciones también han sido compartidas en la pantalla. At this moment, I'd like to ask our wonderful analyst, Kimberly Daniel, to please help me with the roll call.
Thank you so much, Chair. Member Buckmaster?
Here.
Member Pena? Member Covey?
Sorry, here.
Thank you so much. Member Gardner?
Here.
Thank you. Member Gasparini?
Here.
Thank you. Member Brown? Member Chaudhry?
Here.
Thank you. Member Hicks Jumansky?
Here.
Thank you. Member Selk?
Yes, here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lacefield? And Chair Espinoza Murray.
Present. Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate you doing that. Next, we're going to move on to the next item of on the agenda, which is public comment. As we move into public comment, I want to remind folks that there is an attachment to the agenda packet that can be found online In it, you will see all the written public comment that was submitted via email from the moment we started this redistricting process all the way through October 29th, 2021, and it is included as part of the public record. Instructions for public comment are on screen, so use the hand raise feature to request to speak. If you're calling directly from your phone, press *9 to request to speak. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and I will call on members of the public to speak in the order in which you've raised your hand. Please keep your hand raised until you're called upon. Once you finish speaking, please use the lower hand button so we can move on to the next person. Is there anyone from the public who would like to provide public comment? Please do so now. Instructions are on screen. You can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or you can press *9. Okay, I see a few hands up. First, I'm going to call on Francine and then Brett Weber. Francine.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Francine.
Oh, great. Just a quick question. I was wondering, and I've asked a couple of places, whether we can see where current council members live in these new proposed districts, because last time, conveniently turned out that each one was in their own district. And if that's changed, or if it's, modified, or if that's something we could look at.
Francine, thanks for your question. This process cannot take into account where current electeds or candidates live. So we do not take that into account in the process. That is as much as information I can give you on that. If council would like to share more, I would invite council to add to what I've just said.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. We have a new law that the city and all of the cities in the state are contending with, the Fair Maps Act. And the Fair Maps Act does not allow for the cities to take into consideration where electeds reside in creating the districts. So you won't be seeing that information on here.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you, Francine. Your point of how it was done in the past is well taken and noted. Next, I want to call upon Brett Weber. So please go ahead and unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you could hear me.
Go ahead, Brett.
All right. I'm actually in my car. My apologies that I'm not. I'm going to step out of the car for 1 second, please. So hold on.
Brett, go ahead and speak. The clock is ticking, so you can go ahead and talk.
That's okay. Hey, listen, I'm part of the standby district, and I looked at the maps, and I'm just my theory, my thought process on this whole issue is that I believe our city council's done a great job, and over the last 10 years, I think, even though they have political differences, and I believe that they are, are good at the heart for the community. My concern is when I looked at your existing maps that you guys proposed, the A, B, and C, my concern was, why are we changing it too much? What we should do is look at the existing zones or districts that we have for each council member or for each zone. And why don't we just maybe modify it a little bit without changing it too much? Because after looking at your A, B, and C, it looks like you're changing it drastically. And I'm going like, if it's not broken, why try to fix it? And so that's my concern. That's what's my concerns. And I would tell the city council my same feelings is that we have a great working council. And by you spinning it up, it could switch or could hurt what our good momentum is for our community. So that's sort of what my thought is.
I know.
All right, Brett, we lost you. But if you can hear me, I just want to say thank you for your comments, and they're well taken and will be taken into account in this process. it is important to hear feedback from the community. And if the community feels that the current districts are working well, and if our consultants can provide a map that does the case, we can discuss that in this committee. I did want to note that the maps that are currently being presented as options are only options at this point. This committee has not discussed the map options yet. So I'm glad that you reviewed them, and I'm glad that you're providing that input, because I think it's very important.
I'll interject before my time's up. I did provide a map where I think it was titled, if it's not broken, why change it? I submitted something. I'd like to have you guys take a look at it, where I actually spent time looking at the demographics and tried to tie everything in where it really doesn't change the zones too much. And it sort of preserves the integrity of what was originally created. So I hope you guys could take a look at it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks so much, Brett. We'll definitely take into account. I know I do recall that map. I saw it myself, so I appreciate you having submitted that. So thanks, Brett.
Yeah, and I care about Redwood City. So again, the city council's done a great job. Let's just hope that we can preserve it and continue it for the future. All righty.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, everybody. You take care.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Next up, we have Jimmy Hedges. If you want to speak, go ahead and unmute yourself. Jimmy, you have your hand up if you want to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Jimmy. Go ahead and speak. We can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
All right. I was disappointed looking at the maps because I can't see streets. Most of them are faded out and you can't expand it enough. I'm from District 2. And we're one of the districts that doesn't have a council member. And I tried to follow the recommendations on how to do it so I did not break up neighborhoods. The one thing I did do was eliminate downtown from District 2. And that's because of the Downtown Improvement Association, the Downtown District, Downtown Business Group, and the Downtown Neighborhood Association. With them having all of those groups, it says nothing else in District 2 will even be heard. And that is a great concern of mine. And other than that, you know, it looks like the maps have been made to preserve the city council members that already exist so that they're not forced to have a re-election in that district. And that's where I was trying to read the maps to tell that. But anyway, I hope you looked at the map and came up with my community of interest concept. That's about all I have to say at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, Jimmy, thank you for your comment. I appreciate you having been to a couple of our meetings to provide your input. I will direct you to our website. There is a section on the redistricting section of the city's website that allows you to view the maps interactively. And you'll see the section is called Interactive Maps. And within that, you can zoom in and see at the street names in a very detailed way. Because I had the same issue when I was looking at the PDF file, and then I've used the web format. So if you go to the redwoodcity.org website, click on redistricting process, and you scroll down where you see the images of the maps, you'll see a section that says interactive maps. Beneath that, you'll see links to be able to actually see in a very detailed manner what at the street level. So hopefully that helps you, Jimmy. And I do also want to reiterate that this is the first time that our committee is going to be reviewing / discussing any of those proposed maps. So I just want to inform the public that's the case. Next, we have Rona Gundrum, if you want to go ahead and speak.
Hi, good evening. Yes, I just want to second what Brett said. I agree with him. I did submit 2 maps. One of them was something to the effect of rebalancing the existing maps so that the populations are more equal, but it didn't really change the districts all that much. And then I did do another one looking at by neighborhood because there were a lot of comments trying to keep some of the neighborhoods together. But I do have to agree with Brett. I think City Council is doing a great job, and yeah, I don't see that it's broken either. So thank you.
Thank you, Rona. I appreciate your comments, and I'm sure the City Council does as well. Francine, you've already given public comment. Everyone is given 3 minutes, so I apologize, but I cannot allow you to speak again. During this portion of the public comment, there is another opportunity later in the meeting when we're reviewing the maps that you'll be able to speak up again. All right, so this concludes, well, actually, I want to ask, is there anyone else that hasn't spoken that wants to speak? This is your moment. You can please raise your hand. If not, all right, I'm going to call conclusion to this public comment portion of the agenda. If you haven't had a chance to give live public comment, or maybe you don't feel comfortable giving it live, I do ask that you forward your comments to the city by using the email districtelections@redwoodcity.org. Again, that's districtelections@redwoodcity.org. And your comments will be received by the full committee, and it will be included part of the public record. So please, if you're not comfortable speaking up in public, you can do so in writing by sending an email to the address that I have given. All right, I want to move on to the next item of the agenda, and that's the approval of the minutes from our October 20th Advisory Districting Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve? As a reminder, please state your name. When you make the motion.
Hello, Lacefield, second.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Lou, me.
Oh, hey, Lou, thank you. So moved by Lou, seconded by Vice Chair Lacefield. Thank you. Any debate or discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I would proceed to vote. Can I please get help with the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Member Buckmaster?
Yes.
Member Pena?
Yes.
Member Cubby?
Yes.
Member Gardner?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Gasparini?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Brown, I thought joined. Perhaps not. Member Chaudhry?
Yes.
Member Hicks Janansky?
Yes.
Member Self?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lacefield?
Yes.
And Chair Espinoza Murray?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Thanks, Kimberly. Appreciate that. Now we're going to get to the main event, the main course. We're going to receive a presentation from Sofia Garcia, Outreach and GIS Director with Redistricting Partners, the city's redistricting consultant. Sophia is going to present 3 maps. You've heard public comment. Folks have been speaking about it. There's 3 draft map plans that have been prepared by by redistricting partners. These maps were informed by community of interest testimony. They were submitted by, draft maps that were submitted by community members, and of course, the 2020 census data. So Sophia will present all 3 drafts prepared by the consultant, and then she'll also give a high-level overview of the criteria that were used to create the different plans, the themes of community of interest that were taken into account, and also the citizen voting age population and deviation statistics for each of those. And then she's also going to go into next steps. So I'm going to ask members of the committee, please, if you have any questions or comments, let's hold off to the end. We're going to open up for public comment first, and then we'll give the opportunity for the committee to ask questions, debate, discuss with anything in regards to the maps that will be presented. So Sophia, all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my screen? Wonderful, okay. Good evening, everyone. As I hope you're familiar with me by now, my name is Sophia Garcia, the GIS and Outreach Director with Redistricting Partners. We also have Chris Chafee here, who's a part of the team as well, so he'll be here to help answer any questions as we go through the process. So this is the Redwood City draft map presentation. So we have quite a few things to get through. We'll talk about the beginning, kind of how we got here, how we got to the drafts, and then at the end of the presentation, we have each draft as its overview, the data tables, and the district by district. So we'll start with kind of reminding the public how we got here and how we drafted the plans. So it started with public submissions, and the Redwood City Advisory Committee obtained 29 public map submissions by October 25th, and 8 of those were communities of interest maps. The staff had October 25th as the deadline for members of the public to submit maps on districtor or placemats to be a part of the process for review while we created draft maps for this presentation. The date was set on October 25th to allow time for us, the consultants, to look at all of the publicly submitted plans, and then to also ensure that we produced the draft plans and all of the atlases in time for the meeting. So they were all produced in online 5 days prior to the meeting. We do know that there have been multiple maps submitted after that October 25th deadline, so we will be looking at those, and the committee can direct us to uplift any of those plans, but just we want to note that for the drafts that were created, we only looked at those ones on that were made available by the 25th. The public was able to use an online mapping tool, Districtor, and that's how we solicited public input. There was also 8 virtual community workshops, and we had one in Spanish as well. We did online training on the Districtor tool at each community workshop, and there were dozens of full citywide plans and community of interest maps that were submitted. So we got quite a few, which is wonderful to see. We have converted all full and partial plans that were received by October 25th to our Atlas format. And so that includes the cover page, also the data table breakdown, and then the individual district maps. And so we have produced those again for all the ones that were submitted by October 25th, and we're working to create these data packets again for all of the subsequent ones that have been submitted. So those should be available on the website. And as the chair noted, that there is also a web link available to zoom further in. The community of interest maps drawn by the public and received by the 25th were also converted into that Atlas format. Community of interest submissions provided by the commission with descriptions from the public. All community of interest submissions are available on the Districtor site with points of interest and descriptions. For the community of interest tool on Districtor, it allows for members of the public to add an information and write out further descriptions. Districtor does not allow for the author or drafter of the map to add additional comments, and so that's why in the report that we gave you, it doesn't have comments specifically from the authors. We have heard some map authors earlier today uplift their maps, and so that is a wonderful way to talk about your map in this public forum to let us know who you are, because again on Districtor there is no login required, so the submissions when folks are submitting draft maps are anonymous unless the author puts their name on the map. In addition to the PDFs of all of the maps as well, there were also web maps made available and provided, and those should be on the website. These allow for the public and the committee and anyone else who's interested in the redistricting process for Redwood City to zoom in, look at those streets, look at the differences in the boundaries for all of the plans. And so we have, again, the packets, the data packets, and then also the ability for the public and committee to zoom in specifically to look at those street boundaries. We additionally provided a community of interest map report to the committee, and the submitted COI map report provides community of interest and draft maps from the public. It also provides community of interest testimony that was received during the public workshops, and also themes from publicly submitted maps with the following summary data. It gives the submission date of the publicly submitted map. It also gives a thumbnail image of the plan, along with the name that the author provided and the ID number of the public submission. There's also, again, additional public testimony. And so that the additional public testimony is at the end of that report, as well as the themes. And when we were looking to drafting draft maps, we reviewed all of the 29 submissions, and we looked for specific themes that we saw throughout the maps, and also themes that we heard in the public testimony. And so that is a summary of kind of what we heard the majority of folks talk about. And so those are, again, are in that community of interest map report, and was also provided in advance so that it could be available 5 days prior to this meeting. For the draft maps A through C, we created 3 for the committee to talk about. And they are what they're called. They're draft maps. So we are here for this meeting to hear from the committee on how they would like for them to be amended, or if they'd like for additional maps to be uplifted, but they are not the final plan. We are in this presentation and in this meeting specifically to talk and dialogue about the plans that were provided. Committee members were provided a packet with 3 consultant created plans, and those plans were based on community of interest testimony and the traditional redistricting criteria. And that criteria we reviewed throughout each community workshop. We reviewed extensively during the presentations to the committee. And so those criteria, again, are to create districts of relatively equal size, to look at contiguity, to consider community of interest, and to consider additional government data, and to also look at compactness. So those are the criteria that we looked at throughout each of the draft maps. The draft maps were posted to the commission website and made available to the public 5 days prior to this hearing. Districts, for all of the draft maps, you'll see that the districts are lettered, not numbered, and that is intentional. This is a temporary structure for identifying seats, as the final draft plan is required to be numbered based on a formula that you all will talk about. So again, you'll see that the maps that were provided by the public are numbered, and those are kind of how they decided to draw their maps. But the draft maps that are drawn by us, the consultants, are lettered, because we are not going to be the ones who decide what is going to be the numbering of the districts. That will be for when the final map is discussed. So it is intentional that they are all letters and not numbers. Each draft also was created with less than 10% of that total plan deviation. So we meet all of the criteria that we discussed in the previous meetings. So we'll talk a little bit in the next slides about kind of the base for each plan. So draft plan A, we created draft plan A based on the current lines, and also we adjusted them for the current 2020 population and considered that traditional redistricting criteria. For draft plan B and C, we created these drafts based, again, on traditional redistricting criteria and themes based on community of interest testimony. So some of the themes that we saw throughout those 29 maps that were submitted by the public and that community of interest testimony were to keep Redwood shores together, to draw districts with friendly acres, Redwood Village, split Stanbaugh Heller, and then portions of downtown. Additionally, to include Farm Hill and Stolstaff Park in a single district, to have Woodside Plaza and Palm neighborhoods in a district, have Farm Hill, Canyon, and Edgewood in a single district, to draw Seaport with Centennial and portions of downtown, and then to follow neighborhood lines. So again, these are a summary of what we heard throughout all of the testimony, and these were a basis of what we used in addition to that criteria of the traditional redistricting criteria. So Plan A meets the traditional redistricting criteria and also achieves the following. It has a deviation of 9.6%. And you'll see that all of the subsequent plans do have a relatively high deviation, and we get close to that allowable deviation of a total plan deviation of 10%. And the reason is, as you go through the data packets, is we kept Redwood Shores together in each of our drafts. And in order to do that, the draft plan, or the District A in this case, has a deviation of 6.1%. So in order to keep Redwood Shores together, all of the plans have a relatively high deviation. But again, just as a reminder to the committee, you are allowed 10% total plan deviation. So that's why you'll see that it's relatively high. It preserves 8 of the 17 neighborhoods. It also creates 2 districts that are 50% plus Latino citizen voting age population data. And in this instance, it is District C and D. Additionally, it uses the existing lines as a base. Redwoods, or the Plan A, also keeps Redwood Shores in a district and looks at Farm Hill, Canyon, and Edgewood in one district, and also supports Seaport, Centennial, and portions of downtown are in a district as well. And for this map that we're looking at, we see that we have the Plan A lines, and underneath are the neighborhood lines. And so you'll see that for all of the plans A through C. Draft Plan B meets traditional redistricting criteria and also achieves the following. This one also has a deviation of 9.6%. Again, just as a reminder, we have that higher deviation based on District A, in this instance, to keep Redwood Shores together. It preserves 6 of the 17 neighborhoods. It also has 2 50% Latino citizen voting age population districts. This one as well is for District C and D. And it uses community of interest testimony and publicly submitted maps as the base for this particular map. It also keeps Redwood Shores in a single district. It keeps Farm Hill and Canyon in a district. And it looks at Seaport, Centennial, and portions of downtown are also in a district. Portions of Palm and Woodside are also in a district as well. For Plan C, it meets traditional redistricting criteria and achieves the following. This plan has a deviation of 9.7%. It preserves 14 of the 17 neighborhoods, and it creates a district that is 50% Latino CVAP at, in this instance, it is C. So you'll notice that Plan A and B had 2 Latino 50% CVAP districts, and Plan C has a single one. It uses publicly submitted map ID number 67669 as a base. And again, the reason why we looked at that map is because it had a lot of that community of interest testimony, and we used it as a base. It keeps Redwood Shores in a district. It looks at Seaport, Centennial, and downtown are in a district. And then Farm Hill, Canyon, Eagle, and Edgewood are in a single district for this plan. So we'll talk about kind of the trade-offs of when you have those 2 Latino majority districts in Plan A and B. You'll notice that there are some things that we are able to do or not able to do. So those are kind of the trade-offs that we'll discuss when we talk about comments with the committee members. So for the total splits and deviations for the plan, we have the whole neighborhoods for Plan A is 8, for B is 6, and C is 14. So when we talk about amendments or changes to plans, so there'll be, again, a discussion, and there's always going to be trade-offs. Any change here will mean that a district will have to lose population. So changes to plans may need balancing, and we'll again have to talk about those trade-offs. And there's 3 types of changes that we can discuss. One is to keep within deviation and kind of look at those changes that we can make there. But again, just kind of noting that keeping Redwood Shores together as a single district does mean that that deviation for that district is relatively higher at that 6.1%. Identifying a change and possible trade-off with a one-to-one swap. So if we want to make a change between 2 districts, we can look at what that means for the plan as a whole, or we can look at making multiple changes to the entire plan and seeing if we want to move multiple district, what that means. You also have the option to direct us to draw an additional plan, or again, to uplift another publicly submitted map. So we can make amendments to any of the draft maps, draft map A, B, or C, or again, we can be directed to look at an additional map or draw a new map based on additional criteria that the committee directs us as. Oh, excuse me. If there are proposed changes, we can look at those individually and provide input. And we can also, again, look at the underlying census data individually for any adjustments. So what's next for the committee and the process? The official committee drafts will be made public in advance of a citywide public draft feedback hearing. So again, if there will be major amendments to any of these drafts, or if we are directed to draw a new draft plan, those will need to be made available at least 5 days prior to the next hearing. And in addition, we as the consultant will need ideally 3 to 5 days to make those amendments to any changes. So we can do a quick turnaround, but if there's going to be major changes, we're going to need some time to ensure that we are able to capture all of that and make those necessary adjustments. And again, those maps will have to be made public in order for you as a committee to discuss them in the next public hearing. All committee draft maps will go to a final plan selection hearing. So in your structure, whatever plan will be, you'd like to be elevated as a final plan. The goal is to kind of look at a couple of plans and hopefully have 1 or 2 to give to the council. And then the final plan hearing will consider only draft plans that have been made public for 7 days. So when we're in this draft plan phase, we can have more space in order to make amendments. To consider any draft plans, they have to be made available to the public 5 days prior. But for the final plan, that one must be made available 7 days prior to the public in order for them to look at the maps and consider any comments. The numbering of the districts, again, are done at the end of the process by the city council. And so they will be the ones who will look at that and identify and have a discussion on the sequencing of those districts and how they will be numbered. As was mentioned in public comment, when we are drafting these plans and any amendments to plans, we will not know where the incumbents live. As the consultants, we have directed staff to not give us those addresses. And additionally, under the Fair Maps Act, the new state law, incumbency is not considered as a community of interest. So those are not going to be factors as we go through this process. So the next subsequent slides, we have had images of all of the draft plans, so I can go through each of these and then pass it back to the chair for discussion. So again, these are available on the website. And so we'll show you the PDF formats that are going to be available on the website. So for draft plan A, we have the overview of the district. We have the data table. And again, if we look at the district A, it is at a deviation of 6.1%. And to get the total plan deviation, we added that to this negative 3.5%. So again, we're going to see this as higher, but just again, as a reminder, you do have that 10% as your allowable deviation. So there's no dinging if you get as close to that, or if you create a district that is a lower deviation. District A, it keeps Redwood shores together and intact. Again, we heard a lot of testimony specifically around this area. And because we saw that it was possible, we made sure to do that in all of our plans. For District B, we kept the Seaport area and the Bear Island together, and it goes down into Centennial and downtown. District C is that district, as we see here in the data, is one of the districts in this plan that has over 50% Latino citizen voting age population. And so that deviation, or that percentage here, is 52.8%. And additionally, District D also we had the potential to draw another Latino CVAP district, District D at 51.3%. Again, we created these also based on public testimony, but that we did see that we had the potential to make 2 CVAP districts over 50%. We gave you 2 of those options showing that. Another piece of testimony that we got was to keep this park together. So we made sure to do that in this particular district as we were drawing it. District E is the southern portion of that district and has the Redwood Village and the Red Oaks and portions of Palm as well. District F takes those other portions of Woodside and then goes to the west, taking in the Eagle portion. And District G, again, we heard extensive testimony about the Farm Hill area and canyons. And so we connected these areas along with Edgewood and Woodside. For draft plan B, this one again is an additional one. The first one where we looked at community of interest testimony and also the ability to create those 2 50% Latino CVAP districts. The total plan deviation, again, we took the 6.1% and we added that total with the 3.5 where we got higher to the 9.6. District A also takes Redwood Shores and keeps it intact. This time for District B, we took a little bit more of downtown and went further into Edgewood when we looked at this district. Additionally, it keeps the Bear Island with Seaport. District C is very similar to the District C in draft plan A. It is the one that has that 50%, over 50% CVAP at 52.8. Additionally, with District D, again, it's pretty similar to the first plan with the 51.3% Latino CVAP. District E, this time we took more of the portions of Palm and Woodside and then tried to keep this neighborhood intact as we went further east. And this one also took the southern portion of Edgewood for this district. For this district, instead of having portions of Edgewood, we went to the east, and we took portions of Woodside. Additionally, we did keep Farm Hill whole because we heard that testimony as well. For draft plan C, the base of this plan was again to look at the community of interest testimony. This time we only created 1 Latino citizen voting age population district. And this is also the district that has the least number of neighborhood splits. So even within draft plans A, B, and C, we see the trade-off of the ability to create 2 Latino CVAP districts does make it where we would split the neighborhoods more. And so we wanted to give you an additional plan that shows you how it is possible to keep more of the neighborhoods whole, but again, with that trade-off. Again, we have the Redwood Shores at 6.1, and this time we have a 3.4, so you have that total plan deviation of 9.5, so 1 lower. Redwood Shores, of course, is kept together. For District B, we look to keep all of downtown and Centennial together. District C is really similar from the first 2. Keeps friendly together. And when we were talking with staff and just talking internally, we do know that there is this mobile home park that is north of Friendly and of this freeway. But the way that the census blocks have been drawn by the Bureau, if we were to take portions of this mobile home park, it would have us take all those upper portions of Seaport. And so that's why we look to keep it compact and contiguous and to stay on the southern part of that freeway. So that was brought up with staff and internally as we were drafting these plans. District D this time looks at the Redwood Village and keeps all of Red Oak together, additionally with Palm. District E has all of Woodside Plaza together. District F keeps I was doing really good with neighborhoods. And it does keep it more square and keep more of those neighborhoods together. And then for District G, we kept all of Farm Hill, Edgewood, Canyon, and Eagle intact in one. And so again, this is the one that has the majority of those districts together. And so that is the end of the presentation. We know we threw a lot at you, committee and the public and staff, but I will give it back to staff and chair to take us to our.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sophia. First off, I want to say what an amazing job that you and your team have done throughout this process of keeping it really organized, very easy to understand, following the whole process in a very timely manner. It gave opportunity for the public and this committee to have time to review the maps and come here with at least some idea of questions and things like that. I was a part of another districting process that was not the case, where maps were being loaded the moment the meeting started. And it was very sad. So I want to commend you and redistricting partners and also city staff for keeping us on track and keeping this process orderly. And it's just beautiful to see, public comment and you being able to take all the information to account for us to review today. So thank you. I'm going to ask the committee if you have any clarifying questions. I would say hold any debate or discussion for after public comment. But first, if you have any clarifying questions for Sophia from the committee, please raise your hand and I will call you in the order in which you do so. Commissioner Hicks-Domansky.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that, Sophia, you said there were trade-offs. Was the trade-off that you were talking about that some of the districts had two more than 50% Latino voters, but more neighborhood splits, versus map C that had less neighborhood splits, but only one Latino voting district?
That's an example of one trade-off. It's not the only one. So that was just one example of a trade-off of what the committee would like to prioritize or look at.
So I was wondering about what were some of the other trade-offs, or is that going to be covered later?
That kind of comes up with your comments or things that you would like to see. So if you want to look at a specific amendment to any of the districts, now that they are full plans, that means that there will have to be a change to another district. Again, if you want to move any line, that means that the subsequent district would have less population. And so any movement to any full draft plan will have trade-offs, whether we again look at a neighborhood, keep it whole, whether we cross a freeway, whether we keep a park whole, or so that is kind of something that we can discuss. But one of the ones that we kind of showed in our plans is that one of two of them have over 50% and only one of the plan has one district. But again, those are all based on, we were able to draw those maps based on testimony and compactness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. Commissioner Cubby.
Yeah, I was, I'm not necessarily concerned about what the shape of the districts are, but I am concerned about liability down the road. Understanding that so many people want to keep Redwood Shores together in a single district, it almost looks like we're packing the Asian population into that, because it's the largest district by population, and in all of the maps, they have almost double the amount of voters or voting age citizens than any of the other districts. As a matter of fact, or double my district. I mean, it's great for my district that with 6,000 voters, we've got a representative on council, but Redwood Shores only has one with twice the number of voters. So are we going to be coming into a legal problem with that down the road?
I'm gonna pass it off to.
Absolutely not. Well, maybe I should let Veronica.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's let our legal counsel answer that. Thank you, Chris.
And Mr. Chafee, I will ask you to come in because you are an expert when it comes to drawing these districts. And the answer is no. When we're looking at creating population, one vote, one person equals one vote. And so we're looking at the population and not just the voters. And so I do want to be clear. I know we talked about that. That is critical in this redistricting process. And when you're looking at all of the districts, I know that we've mentioned one tenet is an equal population, right? And so you want to make sure that you stay within 10% of the deviation with all of these maps. And all of these maps do that. And they do that really following all of the traditional criteria as well. So that is what we want to look at. And that's critical for us to better understand kind of where you are and what you want to see from a legal perspective. If you go outside of 10%, we need to talk. But if you stay under 10%, we do not have a legal problem with the deviation. And again, you need to look at the population, the general population, not the voters, when you're talking about balancing. And that's what we're doing every 10 years. We're looking at the general population, how it's grown, where it's grown, and rebalancing our city in order to make sure that one person equals one vote. And Mr. Chafee, if you'd like to add, from the technical standpoint, what you as demographers do, that'd be great.
Well, I mean, I think you really laid out the case that we have that 10% tool that we can use with total deviations, and we're balancing people, not citizens. So that's the basis. But I also wanted just to touch on the packing question. So packing really comes into play when you're under a Section 2 compliance issue under the Federal Voting Rights Act, and you're packing way above 50% CVAP. So it's basically it's a case where you're putting as many populated of protected class as possible into one district, so that you can't make two majority minority districts, or you can't create one majority minority district and a good influence district. So I think I'm looking at the numbers, like the District A and most of the plans are around 37.5% Asian CVAP. So that's not a case of packing at all. Instead, you could look at that seat more as like an Asian influence district. So it's not that we're packing per se, but the result of listening to the community of interest testimony and drawing a district around the Redwood Shores district has created a Asian influence district.
And I have a follow-up question, Chris and Veronica, and I'm so glad that Commissioner Covey brought up this question about the fact that for packing, for that to be a legal issue, there has to be demonstration that that minority group not only votes cohesively, but also that there's evidence of polarized voting against that minority group. Is that correct? That would be another way that it could be an issue down the line.
Usually when there's a case of packing, it's that there's a clear that the area has passed the jingles test, right? Where you have a concentration of 50 plus of a protected class according to CVAP, and that you have, as you said, a block voting by the protected class and and consistent voting by the majority against their candidate, the minority group's candidate of choice. So once you get there, right, once you pass the jingles test, then the court would look at whether you are creating effective districts. And one of the elements of effective districts is cracking and packing. Is something the court will look to. Are you cracking a population so you don't get to that 50 plus, or are you packing where maybe you could get to 250 pluses, but you're making one district now 80 and the other one 20, and so you're packing to undermine the effectiveness of a Section 2 seat.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that, and thank you, Veronica. All right, does any other committee member have any questions? If not, I'll open up for public comment. Seems like we're good. All right, so at this time, I want to open it up for public comment on this item. So instructions for public comment on the screen, if the staff will help me with that. You can use the raise hand feature to speak. If you're calling in from your phone, just press *9 to request to speak. Every speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, and I'll be calling on members of the community in the order in which they raised their hand. After you're done speaking, please, I ask that you lower your hand. All right, it seems like we have no comments or questions from the community on this item. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Thank you. So now I want to proceed to committee discussion. So is there anyone on the committee that has any points that they'd like to share on the presentation of these 3 draft maps? I also want to encourage the committee that if you have an idea as to, we have Member Chaudhry, go ahead.
I just have a kind of a quick comment on, you know, like the HTML mapping, you know, format that we received. I mean, I was just wondering, and, you know, honestly, I'm happy to help create this. But I was wondering if there's a way to like see all 3 of these map options on a single web map with an ability to turn on and off like a layer, or have some sort of like a swipe tool to kind of, you know, look at the differences in one place. Because I mean, it's just a little difficult to like look at the 3 maps in like 3 tiny windows, you know.
Thanks, Commissioner Chaudhry. Sophia, is that an option for us to create an interactive map that has layers that can be switched on and off, toggle through to easily compare those maps? Is that a possibility?
We don't have that option at this time. Unfortunately, we're not. If we were a better tech firm, maybe we would have that. But at this point, we do not have that option. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that answer. But Commissioner Chaudhry, if you have a way of doing that, I would welcome you. Welcome you doing that to make that happen.
Or I can actually work with Steven, who's your GIS manager, to see if he can give me access to ArcGIS online tool, and I can create it for the.
I love it. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, next I want to call in Vice Chair Lacefield. Go ahead.
Hi there. I was just going to say I can throw them into Photoshop and we can look at it like that. I don't know if that would help, but that's not something that anybody who doesn't have access to Photoshop would be able to do. So I'm not sure how useful it would be. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. I think the most accessible way would be how Commissioner Chaudhry is thinking about it, which is using ArcGIS to layer those maps. But Vice Chair, please, thank you. And if we need to you can go with that route, we can probably go with that as well. Commissioner Covey.
I have a very low-tech way of doing it. This is what I did. I printed them out and I held them up to the light. Works great.
That also works, yeah. If you got transparency printing, you can reminds me of my days in school and just like hold them onto the light and look at them. Thank you, Commissioner Covey. Alex, go ahead.
So, after just hearing the feedback from the committee, what I think we can do is we could go ahead and ask Stephen DeJong, he's our manager of our GIS team. And depending on where you guys go with amendments and whatnot, once Redistricting Partners has that, we do have capabilities on our GIS to put layers. And then you can just click on each one and that might help you out. I just got to see what the timing would be to get us to the November 17th meeting based off of what you guys provide, what type of feedback and how quickly Redistricting Partners can get that to us. But then I can have GIS then take the shape files and plug it in to our GIS so that you guys can see an overlay and then we can just use the GIS hopefully.
Thank you, Alex. And I want to apologize to Commissioner Silk. I skipped you, so please go ahead.
I know my hand's the same color as
yeah.
every time I'm like, I need to change that, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
So first, I just want to apologize to everyone. I was so transfixed by Sophia's presentation. I did not know that my computer literally ran out of batteries and I had to run and get my charger. So when I left, that's where I went. So I just missed like 3 minutes. I'm like, no. My question, as I've been thinking about the testimony we've got, and clearly Redwood Shores is driving a lot of what the rest of the trade-offs end up being. Just for curiosity's sake, I'm not suggesting we do this. If you remove that requirement of Redwood Shores staying together, does that open up millions of other choices of keeping the rest of the neighborhoods more together, et cetera, or creating more majority minority districts? I'm just curious if that Redwood Shores sort of drives the rest of this.
It's something we can look into if the committee would like us to not have Redwood Shores together. But I think a question we'd have for you too is, what are those additional changes you'd like to see? So yeah, if you'd like to have more neighborhoods together, because again, draft plan C does keep all except for 3 intact. So I think our question or some clarification or help would be, what additional changes would you like to see with kind of taking portions of Redwood Shores out?
Yeah, and I'm not recommending or suggesting not keeping Redwood Shores together. I just was curious how much it drove the rest of the decisions. That's where I was headed. And it's okay if it does, that's fine. I just was curious how much that district, keeping them intact as one district, modifies the rest of the city. And then, yeah, that's what my question was, if that helps clarify.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it really does is it sets the upper band, right? It sets the district, basically your total or your positive deviation at 6.1. And it means that all other plans have to be the low bar, right? It's 2.9 or 2.8 if you really want to be on the right side of the 10. So it does create less flexibility. I don't think it would affect the real ability to draw the 50 plus seats, but it could help with some of the deviations, with some of keeping more neighborhoods together. So one thing we could do is split the neighborhood slightly, maybe bring it down. I don't know. We can play with it and see what the resultant map looks like. It just will be very different looking. And if you look on Districtor, you'll see some of the other possibilities out there, right? Where you can like split off the top or split off the side, put it with the rest of the coast. And so we can do that as like maybe plan D, because that would be a totally different architecture.
Thank you, Chris. Next, I want to open it up for Commissioner Gasparini. Go ahead.
Thanks. So I'm the District 7 representative. So of course, that's the area that I looked at first, just because I'm most familiar with that area. Although, Sophia, I have to say, Ms. Garcia, I just commend you so very much for knowing our neighborhoods. I've lived in Redwood City for 56 years, and I think you know them better and are able to call them out faster than I ever could. So I just congratulate you, because it really shows that you listened and paid attention to our neighborhoods, because they mean so much to us. And we're all on here because we love our city. So I just commend you for really knowing when we're talking about Stambaugh Heller, or when we're talking about Palm Park, or when we're talking about a community of interest around Stolstaff Park, that you really understood that. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We know that the maps you drew based on people's feedbacks were really maps that were based on people's feedbacks. And, just going back to a non-technology person, I actually took one of the city's placemats and actually drew on one placemat everybody's community of interest and the maps. And I mean, it looked like my third-year-old grandson's drawing, but could really sort of see where was some commonality. So for me, I think the plan map C felt that it represented more of what people were saying. And for the G map, I sort of liked how our Woodside Road, I guess it would be south of Woodside Road, really stayed in that community and not tried to, I think somebody used a word before, gerrymandering, where it became part of sort of the Farm Hill Canyon. So I think for my district, that's what drew me, first of all, to Plan C. But my question is, again, I go back to the Voters Rights Act. And again, compaction and packing. And I just want to make sure that when we're creating districts of majority minority, that there isn't one better way of presenting a district than another. They're all fair and equitable. Does that make any sense?
Maybe I can try to address that. I think that's exactly what we want to do in creating our districts, is to make sure that we're providing for fair representation. And you're right, when you're looking at the districts and we're looking at creating, the way that the demographers looked at it, they looked at following all of the traditional criteria for redistricting and, compactness and contiguity. And they also looked at, okay, how can, what are the districts that can be created? And as a result of the communities of interest testimony, looked at also the Latino CVAP population. So really, they did a great job of creating districts that adhered to all of the traditional redistricting criteria, and also provided for the, at least in plans A and B, also provided for 2 districts with a Latino CVAP of 50% or more, and 1 district which was Asian influence. Again, all after considering all of the community of interest testimony and the traditional factors. So thank you for really thinking about that, because it's a balancing act.
It really is. So thank you. I'll let Commissioner Gardner speak.
Oh my goodness. I swear I cannot unmute on this. The UI on the iPad is not great. Anyway, I just wanted to give some of my general feedback on what I'm seeing with some of the maps. I think it's really great on the first 2 that we do have those 2 districts. That's probably the thing that I don't like the most about the 3rd map. I understand that a lot of people are saying like, oh, well, keep all the neighborhoods together. But I know, like, it's my personal experience that like the edges of the neighborhoods aren't always right. And so like, I think it's more important to keep like the core of the neighborhoods, and then like the edges like might not always be like the exact right lines to draw on that. The other thing that really bothers me about C is losing that section of those little mobile home parks that are along Broadway, pulling those out of C and into B, because that's just not the same kind of, that area is just completely different. But and then on map B, that's definitely like the one that I kind of am more drawn to, in terms of that it keeps all of the hills together. It has that, I feel like C is it's a much better district. The division of Woodside Park, Emerald Park, the section on the middle on the left, is kind of unfortunate, but I'm not as familiar with that area about where that line actually should be. And I definitely hear the feedback from other people of Redwood Shores, like, should we keep it together? But it's a completely different, that neighborhood is completely different feel, like with being all in with the shores and just everything, it's just a completely different neighborhood than most of the rest of Redwood City. There is some stuff in Bear Island that does have a very similar feel. I'm talking about this from like biking the entire city, which I've done in the past year. There are some sections of Bear Island, but there's not enough. I don't think there's enough to combine Redwood Shores and Bear Island and split that and get 2 districts out of it. I just don't think there's enough population there, but I could be wrong. Anyway, that's my feedback. I think you guys have done an amazing job of giving us all of these options, and hopefully that was the kind of comments you were looking for.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. I love hearing what's good, what's bad. Allows me to also process. I'm going to go ahead and speak as I have my comments as well, and I've been trying to hold back. But I would share that if I have any opposition to any of these maps is draft plan C at the moment, mostly because it reduces the majority Latino CVAP options when we could continue creating that. I do want to make a request of redistricting partners, and that they can make a map that is a minimal change map that makes adjustments for the changes in the population and tries to maintain as much of the current map as possible. We've heard a lot of comment on that, but I'm not so sure that even though draft plan A tries to maintain that, I'm not so sure that that is one that really focuses on making minimal changes in terms of the geography of the districts. Sophia and Chris, please correct me if I'm wrong in saying that. It just sounds like draft A is similar to what we have now, taking into some other factors, but I'd love to see what that looks like so that the community as a whole can have an opportunity to weigh in on, if they feel that we have a wonderful city council, that they feel like we are able to have equitable and fair elections, and that's what the community wants. I'd love for them to have an option for us to weigh in on. So that's my request, that we have a map that is a minimal change map. Again, I just want to reiterate, draft plan C is one that I hope that we could probably eliminate for us for discussion, and really focus on trying to increase the number of majority districts, so that our underrepresented folks and our marginalized folks can hold some power in our city council going forward. I think that is within the spirit of the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Maps Act. And I will end my comments there and pass it over to Commissioner Buckmaster.
Thank you, Chair Espinoza. I really want to thank Sophia and her team. You guys have done a phenomenal job in looking at these maps. You really listened to the community feedback. You nailed it. I mean, you really did. I was so impressed, and having been part of all this 2 years ago, and just my compliments to you and Veronica and Alex. I mean, congratulations in such a short time, and to all the commissioners. I'm more leaning towards A and B, especially with, I like the opportunity. I don't like, with Redwood Shores, I think it needs to be 1. It just shows, it's the data shows. And A and B, C, I'm not partial to, because I feel like it just is another, it takes out it just makes it, like Rudy said, Chair Espinoza, I don't like breaking that up and making it one large group. It doesn't really represent the whole community, as I feel. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. And again, living in Redwood Shores, also, I worry about bringing Bear Island in, also for public safety. It's just, I'm concerned about those areas. So that's kind of where I'm going in the A and B. So I just want to put my thoughts in. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Commissioner Buckmaster. Alex.
I had my hand up, but the one thing I was going to say is that if we can, I was going to ask redistricting partners to have the maps that they can toggle in between, because I know not everybody might know what these maps are. We keep referring A, B, and C. And so just for the public, maybe being able to, I know that we have like 3 slides next to each other that we can toggle through as commissioners or community members are talking about it, might be easier
Yes, I'll bring them up.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Hicks-Domansky.
So I actually really, I like map B. I like it because I like the changes that it made to, I think it represents the newer demographics of some of the old neighborhoods. But my question is, I've been spending a lot of hours playing with these maps, and if I wanted to go in and just kind of try a few changes to D and E, because D and E, the way that's drawn, like cuts off a portion of Hudson to one and not another. And if I wanted to like play with that, is that part of this process? Or do we do that during a meeting, or do I do that as a citizen too, and then submit that on the website for the review?
Commissioner, just a clarification, you're speaking about map B and the district letters within that? Okay.
Yeah, the D and the E. See that section of D that sticks out?
Yeah.
Which I know part of that was a community of interest idea for a park, but not that whole area doesn't represent that community of interest concern. So there's Hudson Street here. Well, I mean, I know this area really well. I live in this area. So, just playing with a couple of these blocks, I just wondered if I'm sure that the redistricting, I'm sure this has been done. I've spent hours trying to play with these. It's very, very dense population, and one census block can make a big difference. But I just didn't know what the process was here if we wanted to play with some of these a little bit.
I mean, one of the ways you can describe changes you'd like to see made, if you wanted to say, can you move the border to this street or that street? We can look at that as well, and maybe have a visualization ready for you next time, or have a new map construction with D&E. I think one thing to just to note is that in Plan B, districts C and D are the two minority Latino seats. So you can, of course, make changes to any of the districts, but it's just something to take note of.
So C and D, did you say are the two? Okay. Well, that might change what I was thinking then. Probably it's drawn like that to help preserve that makes those possibilities. Okay.
But as Chris was stating, this is the space to request for any changes or modifications. And again, if they're vague, or what would be, I think, more helpful is like specific changes, or again, so far we've been asked to look at creating a new plan that splits Redwood Shores. And then we've also received a request to make another plan that specifically looks at the existing line. So those are the kind of feedback that we would kind of like to elicit from you as the committee.
Okay, then I'll just finish by saying then it would be nice to see if they could continue D down Palm and put the little, you can't see streets on this. I'm toggling between my own, bringing it up on my own computer. So this is Hudson, maybe? I still can't see the street name, sorry. Yeah, that's Hudson. So yeah, or to expand D towards Hudson or down Palm, and then this other area goes into E, but I don't know if that'll preserve the major minority, whatever district. So I think that's a higher priority to preserve that.
Okay, so the change was to, if we can have this portion go down to Hudson Street.
Or down here on the right side to go down along Woodside Road to Palm.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
If it helps, you could turn on the whiteboard feature on Zoom and people could actually draw in the whiteboard on it. I don't know if that would help.
I don't.
Spoken by an amazing teacher who taught Zoom. You taught us.
I don't have that functionality. That would, I think, be a question for Alex.
So I have my hand raised, and we've had an experience of having Zoom bombings. And the minute that you allow more of these features, it could have unintended consequences. And therefore, that's why you have seen the structure. We've really clamped down on what you can, basically the access rights.
All right, thank you.
Chair, can I have the floor? Sorry, my raise hand feature is not working. I wanted
all right,
to.
I'll let Commissioner Gasparini and then you.
Thank you.
Dr. Pena is more than welcome to go before me.
Sure, go ahead, Dr. Pena.
Thanks, sorry. So you can call me Manuel. Thanks, Tanya. So listen, I wanted to just give my own feedback regarding some of these maps. There were features in each one of them, honestly, that I like, but I do agree with some of the comments that have been made about drafts Plan C, in that it doesn't offer a voice for many of the community members by eliminating that second Latino majority minority group. So I would be interested as well in just eliminating that for the sake of moving forward. I wanted to remind our committee members that the current districts were created only 2 years ago when we didn't have the current demographics that we are able to acknowledge moving forward in this process. And I think the responsibility of ours is to acknowledge those demographic changes and see how we might not lift the voices up for everybody in Redwood City.
Thank you, Dr. Pena. Is there a motion?
So I move to eliminate Plan C from the consideration of the maps that will be submitted for consideration moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Pena. Is there a second? Commissioner Kelk. Okay, so it has been moved and properly seconded that we eliminate draft map C from consideration. Is there any debate or discussion? And Dr. Pena, you've already expressed your comments, but as maker of the motion, I'd like to give you the opportunity to speak in favor of your motion if necessary.
Only in that the purpose would be so that as we start tackling some of the more details that we're starting to speak about in terms of moving the maps to consider more streets and margins of other communities, that we as a committee acknowledge the changing demographics in Redwood City, and we're making a commitment to raise the voices of our marginalized people and underserved people in Redwood City. And by providing an additional minority majority district than what we have currently is an opportunity for us to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Pena. Is there any further debate or discussion on the main motion? I know that a few of you folks had your hands raised. If it is relevant to this motion, keep your hand raised. If not, I would ask that you lower your hand. Vice Chair Lacefield.
Yes, I absolutely 100% agree that the preserving 2 majority minority districts is of vital importance. What I was actually going to ask for even before this motion is I'd really like to see a map similar to C that is tweaked in such a way as it has 2 majority minority districts, but has the positive elements of C, which is maintaining more of the neighborhood cohesion. So to redraw it in such a way that there are 2 majority minority districts, but leans a little bit more toward the neighborhoods. And I think in order to do that, we have to consider that Redwood Shores may not be able to continue to be 100% the way that it is currently. I understand that that is a challenging subject, but I'd really like to see a variation on C that does have the 2 Latino districts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Brown. Commissioner.
Trying to figure out, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get off of mute. I'm on my phone. I've been trying on my computer and it's not working. I wanted to thank the committee for doing this because the nation is going into a thing where we're gerrymandering the entire nation. So it's a little, I'm very proud to be on this commission to see what we're doing. I wanted to ask Chris, and thanks Sophie, by the way, for doing a great job. I want to ask Chris, what's the pros and cons of this? He mentioned splitting several times in his conversation. I just wanted to get a very brief understanding of what he meant or was concerned about, the pros and cons of splitting. Clearly, the Plan C is, based on my quick math, has gone down in flames. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Go ahead, Chris.
I think the benefit of splitting Redwood Shores would be that you could have you could just do a different configuration, and you could do a larger negative deviation for one of the districts down towards the middle of the city. Having a district that's so overpopulated to start with at 6.1% limits your ability to use the deviations to keep more neighborhoods together. So it's basically, by splitting Redwood Shores, you could reduce the splits of additional neighborhoods. But I mean, I think you have to balance that with all of the other the community of interest testimony that's been provided to by the public throughout this process.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Commissioner Covey.
I have to say, I'm having trouble making up my mind on this. Initially, I liked map C simply because it increases the potential for Hispanic voters to vote. Traditionally, they are the population that are least likely to vote in any election. And by having more of them in a particular district, it makes it possible that they might actually elect somebody who might represent them. But I could be wrong on that. But on the other hand, I think the whole discussion about keeping neighborhoods together it's not really representative of the majority of people in Redwood City. I think if you talk to most people in Redwood City, they would not know what neighborhood they belong to. The people who are in this committee know because we are involved in the city. But if we put that out to a vote, says, do you want to keep your neighborhood together? They wouldn't know what their neighborhood is. So I think that's kind of a red herring to be going after. We should be considering mostly the population densities wherever they happen to be. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Covey. I appreciate that. Commissioner Gasparini.
My question really, I think on the table right now is whether or not we want to eliminate map C. My question is after that vote.
Oh, okay. So I'll come back to you. If there's no further debate or discussion, I will ask Kimberly if we can now proceed to vote, if we can do roll call. So the motion on the floor, yeah, sorry, I just wanted to restate the motion. The motion on the floor right now is for us to eliminate draft map C that was created by redistricting partners, for us to eliminate from consideration. Yeah, so go ahead, Kimberly.
Thank you. Committee Member Buckmaster.
I'm sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you. Committee Member Pena.
Yes.
Committee Member Covey.
Abstain.
Member Gardner.
Yes.
Member Gasparini.
Yes.
Member Brown.
Abstain.
Member Chaudhry.
Yes.
Member Hicks Junansky.
Yes.
Member Selk,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lacefield,
Yes.
and Chair Espinoza-Murray.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes with 9 yeses and 2 abstentions.
Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate you running the roll call. Commissioner Gasparini. By the way, I failed to restate what the conclusion was. We are now eliminating draft map C from consideration. We appreciate Chris and Sophia doing the work to present this map, but I do think it sends a message to this commission and the public that we really do care about maintaining those majority minority districts in Redwood City. So I appreciate all of you on the healthy discussion, the cordial discussion, and the vote on this. So thank you, Commissioner Gasparini.
Yes, thank you. I think that was an overwhelming, a resounding that we all want to create fair and equitable communities. So thanks to the whole commission. That was a great discussion. So I'm just going to go back to my original comment, which has to do with what used to be draft map C, which is no longer. However, the configuration of what is District F or G, excuse me, in draft map G, I felt was a more representation of a community of interest or like-minded, like we would think of Redwood Shores, because it's not all the way out, a thin strip out to Woodside Road. So I'm wondering if Chair Espinoza-Murray, you had talked about if there is a way for us to look at a couple of deviations, knowing that I think the majority of people on the call were thinking about Redwood Shores staying as one community or one district, and then also very strongly creating 2 minority districts. But looking at, and again, this just comes from me, I don't profess that there's anyone that's in agreement with District G not being out to Woodside Road, but it would then influence District E and F as they are on this map, obviously. So I'm just wondering if there is a way for us to request that, or if that's just my own personal thought, then it's really not the majority of the commission.
So I will say this, Commissioner Gasparini, you are within your bounds to request a map to be drawn to with the assist from our redistricting partners. So if you have ideas of what that should look like, you could go ahead and request that. That is something that we can do as commissioners as okay. Part of our job. Just like I requested a minimal change map, you're able to request what your thoughts are on districts G, F, and E, and how you have those concerns. So Sophia and Chris, is that something that you need more details on, or has Commissioner Gasparini been?
Oh, could you just restate it and then maybe direct me on this map so that I kind of know exactly what their request is?
Yeah, thank you.
And I don't know if City Attorney Veronica Ramirez needed to make any comments about whether or not that's an okay request.
So thank you for that. No, actually, Sophia got to where I was going to try to focus you, Commissioner Gasparini, on what of this District G are you hoping to try to get, and then maybe redistricting partners can look at the current plans A and B and see if it could be manipulated in a way that takes care of the aspects of this District G you liked.
So I think I can't toggle the map, but I believe District G, the way it's drawn here, uses, it looks like Jefferson and Farm Hill as the boundary between G and E. I can't see
Jefferson
and it's Alameda. It's Alameda there.
Alameda. Okay, so keep going. Sorry. And as it goes out to Woodside Road as the purple, which would be, there you go. Keep going. So this area, I'm sorry, it's hard to, you know what, could I just make the comments offline and show you and tell you the roads? Or would that not be, it needs to be at this meeting? Because it's right.
Commissioner, you could submit that via email, by the way.
Okay.
Request. Yeah.
I think that's what I should do rather than taking everyone's time, with the idea that we do, obviously there was great support for creating two majority minority districts. So not having influence that.
Yeah. I think without any request that we at Redistricting Partners request that it goes through staff, so we won't have any one-on-one conversations offline with committee members, but if it goes through staff, then all of those would be available to the public. But again, Veronica or Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or kind of, yeah, that process, but I just want to state we won't be doing direct emails with committee members offline.
And we would ask that you use the redistricting email and recognize that it will be part of the record for the redistricting process. But I believe Committee Member Gasparini, that's what you were mentioning you would be doing. So that's fine. I think, you know, it would be great if we understood how many interests in caveats there were and in, you know, revisiting today, and so that we know what we're coming out with. And right now we understand that I think now there are 3 interests that I think Chris might have already identified, and then this is a 4th interest in revisiting the plans to see if there's any way of preserving G in one of the other plans.
Thank you, City Attorney Ramirez, and thank you, Commissioner Gasparini, for that information. So, Commissioner Gasparini, do you feel comfortable submitting an email in order to communicate via staff with redistricting partners to hopefully develop a map that you're interested in seeing?
Yes, all it is being able to redraw D, F, C, and B, so that we still preserve the majority minority districts without taking away that and without losing the communities of interest. And perhaps there is just no way to do that. And preserving G is not, it's a very low priority.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to give the floor to Vice Chair Lacefield.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that the request that I made earlier about adjusting map C so that it had 2 majority minority districts is very much in line with what Commissioner Gasparini was talking about. Basically, I would like to see if we can keep G intact the way that it is in C, even though we're trying to look for another way of balancing it. And I think that we may have to put adjusting the bounds of Redwood Shores on the table if we're going to do that. And I think that is something that we'll have to look at. And I just wanted to clarify and confirm that we can still get into Districtor and draw proposed maps as well, right? Still. So I'm probably going to jump in and try to do that this week. Thank you.
So the answer is yes, Commissioner Lacefield is still active, so you can still go ahead and use it to draw. Thank you for your comment, and glad to see that there's more than one commissioner thinking along the same lines on District G. Commissioner Gardner.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what people are talking about exactly with District G, because this is like one of these lines that I'm talking about, where in the past we've sometimes used Fernside as a partial dividing line, and it really shouldn't be. That like really splits this neighborhood, and it really should. If you're gonna, you either kind of need to go up further, like past Fernside, which is where part of this is, where this second piece is. No, come down here to Alameda. We're going the wrong direction. Okay.
Sorry. Okay, please go up, move them out.
No, down, go down. move it the other way. Okay, so you see here so we've got Roosevelt, Fernside, and Alameda. So this is kind of really dividing up like this neighborhood right here. I would much prefer for the line to be on Alameda.
Okay, so move the line to be.
Yeah. Or if you don't want to use that, to like actually come up here and like take the rest of this kind of lower Farm Hill district with McGarvey and Chesterton and Chesterton, Hastings, Briarfield, kind of taking the rest of that, because where the way this line is, it really is just dividing this neighborhood.
Agreed. This is Danny. Agreed.
So go down Alameda, and then what was the second piece that you said?
So sorry, I would prefer. I don't want the line where it is. I would rather it be either on Alameda or to go and take kind of the rest of this stuff that's this lower Farm Hill, not Brandy Rock, but everything else here that's like McGarvey, take that and pull that down to the purple district. I prefer to cut it at Alameda and go north, but I would rather you cut this little pink area and take it to the purple than to leave the line where it is.
Okay.
By the way, and
Megan, I agree with you, Megan.
Folks, I want to interrupt here, and City Attorney Ramirez and Alex, if y'all help me with this, but I believe that a small number of commissioners can actually discuss and agree and send a request to redistricting partners. If we need to create a subcommittee, we can do that. I know that as long as the majority of us aren't meeting, we do not violate any Brown Act rules. So I'm wondering if I see that a lot of folks have opinions on this area and ideas, and it seems like there's agreement. So for us to facilitate this and not overtake discussion tonight, maybe they can speak offline and come to agreements and then pass that information on via the email to redistricting partners, to staff to get to redistricting partners. City Attorney, go ahead.
Thank you. And, while technically that is correct, I would recommend that the committee as a whole continue to be discussing these maps and for this to be done in public. What we could do, I think we've heard the testimony, we've heard from committee member Gardner, from committee member Gasparini, and from committee member Lacefield on some of their interests. And I think redistricting partners can take that and come back with something at the next meeting, and let's see if there's something to react to then, so that we can move forward. In addition, if folks are interested in going on to Districtor, you can also do that or send an email. But I would recommend that the committee really keep their deliberations in a public forum. It allows for the public to understand what your thoughts are, both as individuals as well as a committee when you come to a consensus.
City Attorney Ramirez, so we have one more meeting to discuss. So I'm just curious, like how detailed should it be in this meeting, since we only have one more meeting left to discuss, just to make sure that redistricting partners does have all the details that they need to do this. So I'm open. I'm just trying to facilitate the meeting, and that we can also have discussions on the other maps and that other folks can share. So I was trying to avoid us, just getting caught up in, the boundary of a district for a map that redistricting partners could help us to actually be able to discuss at the following meeting. So I'm open, City Attorney Ramirez, so you let me know what your thoughts are on that. Should we just continue this discussion on this district line, or should we proceed? What do you think?
Again, I think you're done on this discussion.
Okay.
The reality is that you're focused on a plan that you've decided not to consider right now, and so I do think that it's well within your authority to ask to move along and focus on plans A and B, which are still on the table.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that has been on my mind for the last 15 minutes. So we did vote to not consider this map. So I would say let's not consider this map. However, if there are elements of this map that you appreciate and you want to suggest to be worked on, again, you can do it via email, or we can have that conversation. So I'm going to ask Sophia if you'll remove this map from the screen, and we're going to move on from that. I also want to remind the public that we have passed the public comment period for tonight's discussion. So if you have your hand up, I'm sorry, I cannot call upon you. We've already passed that portion. If you have something that you want to say, please go ahead and write to the email, which is districtelections@redwoodcity.org, and submit your public comment, and it will be shared with the full committee and also be entered into the public record. So thank you all. City Attorney, oh, sorry, you just lowered your hand. Commissioner Selk.
I wanted to be sure there wasn't a way to make a third majority minority district, since clearly people are interested in hearing from people who have less of a voice. And then the other comment that I have on both of the maps, A and B, I want to say that I live in what is now G or E, depending on which map you're looking in. And I want to say that I like how the Redwood Oaks neighborhood has been kept together. So as we look to the next step and make new maps based on things, it was really nice to see the boundary be along all of Woodside and not come in and sort of split in into the neighborhood when Woodside was a really beautiful dividing line. So I just wanted to share that was valuable to the area near where I live.
Thank you, Commissioner Selk.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Selk, could you repeat that?
Oh, yeah, sure. And I can show you.
I'm familiar with the neighborhoods, but the streets, I've
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me make yours bigger and mine smaller. Hang on. If you zoom in on E, keep going, and then just sort of that south-ish area of El Camino, really close to the purple and red boundary. Oh, really close to the purple. Oh, other purple and red boundary. So sorry. It's so hard to tell someone where to go. Keep going towards your
Towards
right.
Woodside?
Towards your right.
Towards Woodside?
Yeah, but you didn't know where Woodside was, so that's why I was trying not to do that. Keep going even further east, and then go north. Right there. So a little bit south, pardon me. Before, in the past, Hazel and Hemlock and Linden and that whole neighborhood was randomly like cut through, and it's really tight neighborhood. So I just love that whole area. There's a Target across the street, across El Camino. That's all part of like one neighborhood that's like a lot of pedestrians always cruising all the way through that whole east side of the red zone, so east side of Woodside. So I liked that was all in one piece still. So I just wanted to, when you make a map, that was really nice to see. So if that's possible to maintain, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Selk. I do have a question. Commissioner Selk made an interesting comment about a third majority minority district. Sophia and Chris, is that something that was attempted? Is it possible based on the numbers? Just curious.
Not possible.
Not possible. Okay.
Well, that answers that.
That answers that. Yeah. I did notice, the reason I said that is I saw that the voting age population was significantly different than the population. And I didn't know if those children were like close to 18, you know what I mean? Like I was thinking that we could create something that in 5 years from now would become a majority minority district, or if you can even look at that, if that's even allowed.
Also, Commissioner, that includes non-citizens. So there's people that are immigrants that are non-citizens.
But they also might become citizens.
Yeah, exactly. So that, yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't future-proof districts because you also have births and deaths and migration in and out of the city. And so it's nearly impossible to say, oh, if with this configuration, you'd create a new majority minority district in 3 years. So really what we have to look to is the 2020 census and then the American Community Survey, the CVAP 1519 data set that we have now.
In the same vein, a coalition building district, I didn't hear those words said tonight. Does that mean there's not any, or does that mean that we just didn't say it out loud?
It's not really, you don't see coalition districts discussed in California or in the West. It's mostly something that comes up in the South. And it's because what you have to be able to show with a coalition district is that all of the minority groups are acting together to vote for the same candidate in back-to-back elections. And in California, you don't see that happening often. And there isn't a lot of research showing that you have the API community, the Latino community, and the African American community consistently voting for the same candidates of choice over 3 and 4 elections.
Got it. I hadn't heard the term brought up much, so that explains why. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks, Commissioner Selk. Is there a further comment? Go ahead, Commissioner Gardner.
I would just like to point out that this map, map A, has the same problem that I was talking about in C, about not using Alameda and using Fernside and kind of cutting through that same neighborhood. And my comments stay the same here, that this should really be using Alameda, or at least just not breaking up that neighborhood. And that spur is very weird. So it comes from the layout of the neighborhood. So I know where it comes from, but that doesn't mean that it's right. So that's it.
Thanks, Commissioner Gardner. All right, so if there isn't further discussion, I think we're done with tonight's meeting. Oh wait, go ahead, Alex.
So just, I know that I appreciate all the feedback that has come in. I just want to kind of just capture, I've been taking notes this whole time and kind of hearing where everything's going. And I just wanted to see Chair Espinoza-Murray, if we're kind of on track so that we have enough direction. I think we've taken it, but I just want to double check with the group of what I'm hearing so far is keeping maps A and B still in consideration. I have a minimal change map. The chair has said, with including 2 CVAPs, minority majority districts in there. I have what committee member Gasparini had was a map C kind of amended map. And I heard that from a couple other committee members this evening, that you'd want to have 2 CVAP minority majority districts included, looking at pulling all the way down to Alameda rather than Fernside in that area. And then I also heard kind of the Redwood Oaks, kind of trying to keep with Woodside Road area as well, and just trying to kind of make it all work and keep the District G intact minus those edits on Alameda. And then I have what we were talking about earlier in the meeting, which was a Redwood Shore split map and keeping 2 CVAP minority majority districts as well, just to see how that would work out. Is that pretty close to what, that's kind of what I was hearing over the last hour and 15 minutes. I could have missed something, but.
I don't think you've missed anything, but I'll entertain comment if anyone disagrees with what I'm saying. I think Alex pretty much summed it up. That was a TLDR of tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All thumbs up. You're winning, Alex. You're winning.
No, it's all good. I'm just trying to synthesize everything that all of you have been providing this evening to make sure we have staff direction to our consultant so that we have direction. And I'll look at the attorney, just making sure, Veronica, you think I'm in a lot, do you need any type of voter confirmation from the group, or you think we got enough direction?
I think you have sufficient direction. I have all of those same notes, not maybe in the same order, but I have all of those same notes. So I think it was all consistent.
Great job, guys. Wow.
Thank you. I'm absolutely impressed that it's taken us under 2 hours to hold this conversation. How everyone has been so respectful, how a lot of us are aligned. It's been wonderful discussion. And again, thank you to the city staff and the staff at Redistricting Partners. y'all are kicking butt, and we're all super impressed with what you're doing. And obviously to my fellow commissioners who are here doing the work and, you know, looking out for our communities of interest and making sure that that Redwood City looks good for the next 10 years and that we have representation that our community wants. So that's awesome. We have one more meeting. I just want to point out that meeting is November 17th at 6 p.m. So members of the community that are listening in, please make sure that you're paying attention. 5 days before that meeting, these maps will be up. You'll have time to review. Come with your questions and your comments. We want to hear more from what you have to say. So yeah, so the next meeting is a public hearing. We want to hear your thoughts on those final options that will be presented, that this committee will be voting on, whether it's one option or multiple options as we submit to the city council for their review and approval, or they may go with something else. So if you want to submit a map for consideration, you can do so via the website, or email, or hand drawn, no later than November 9th. So I want to make sure that the community is aware that November 9th is the final deadline for us to receive maps from the public. If you have questions, if you want to learn more, if you want to check out those 3 maps we were discussing today, even though we're no longer considering map C, you can check them out on the website, redwoodcity.org/redistricting. You'll see the schedule. You'll see all the information on the maps, and you'll see the packet that we've been discussing today. Or you can submit any questions or comments via districtelections@redwoodcity.org. Again, that's districtelections@redwoodcity.org. I want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight, and the community for making your comments, asking your questions. I'm very grateful for all of you, and looking forward to our last meeting on November 17th at 6 p.m. And with that,